Hello there. This is Leadership in 30 Minutes. Welcome to today's session where we examine very important issues on the all important subject of leadership. My name is Olatunji Shobodu. I'm your anchor for Leadership in 30 Minutes, and it's my pleasure to be with you again this morning. Today, the subject matter is this: relevant or tolerated. What do we mean? The question is for you, is for me. Are you relevant as a leader to your team and to your organization, or are you just being tolerated? Are you relevant, or you are just being tolerated? Truth be told, not every leader is relevant, has proven himself or herself to be relevant in his or her team. The reason that some leaders struggle with leadership, with getting their people to follow them, to commit to them, is because they have not proven themselves to be relevant. Many leaders are frustrated because they're just being tolerated. They are not considered as being relevant. And when you are relevant, you will be celebrated. When you are relevant, you will be respected. When you are relevant, you will command influence. Aren't these what leaders and what leadership should be about? It's often said that leaders command influence, and through influence, they move and mobilize their people to get things done. So without influence, how much leadership can you bring to bear on your people? The point is, you can't command influence until you prove to be relevant. You can't be respected until you prove to be relevant. You can't be celebrated, of course, as a leader until your relevance is proven. So I ask again, are you relevant, or you are just being tolerated? Interestingly, some leaders don't even know. They are not sensitive enough to pick the signals that of tolerance, that their people simply tolerate them, and they don't really regard them as true leaders. What are the signs that your relevance has not been proven? What are the signs that your leadership is at stake on account of lack of relevance? Number one is that you add no value. Your people don't believe that all your efforts, as much as they may, as much as you may consider them to be, as heavy, as burdensome as you may consider them to be, as sacrificial as you may consider them to be, your people don't consider them to add value to them. As far as they are concerned, you are not adding value. And perhaps it's the case that things get done without your input. Now, interestingly, some leaders may pride themselves when situations like that are in place, that look, my people know what to do, and so they get things done. But your people must not know what to do to the point that your input as a leader is not required, because that means you have outlived your usefulness. If you are not adding value, if your people are not seeking your input, even if strategic input, and things get done and everything is moving fine without your deliberate, sought out or sought after input, you need to get worried. You are just being tolerated. And in fact, you are losing control, if not that you have even lost control. In that situation, there's nothing for you to celebrate. You should be scared because you inadvertently, have walked yourself out of your leadership role. And perhaps, there is already a new leader in the team because obviously your people must be looking to somebody else, among themselves where they get that strategic input. Your people may also be considering you see you as a pretender. All right. When you're a pretender as a leader, another word for that is a hypocrite. Another word for that is that, your approach is deceptive. All right. Now, you can't be regarded as being relevant if all your people know you to be is that you pretend. All right. You pretend to be committed when you are not. You pretend to be interested, or to be pursuing their interest when they are not. Now, when you don't provide any support, leaders are developers, leaders are molders. Okay, when you don't provide that kind of support that helps your people to grow in skill, to build strong character, you would lose relevance. You would not be regarded as being relevant. All right. When you are self centered and selfish, when everything is about you instead of about them, even though, like we said before, you may make it appear as if it's about them, then of course you lose relevance. You lose relevance. Uh, when you are not empathetic or kind, you lose relevance. You lose relevance. I've had leaders who would prefer that their people leave their personal problems at home and just come to the work and focus on the work. And in a recent MBA class that I led, that was a big issue. And many eyes were open. You can't ask a man, a human being, to leave their problems at home. Human beings that are essentially, first and foremost, emotional beings, and secondary, yes, logical beings. You can't ask them to leave their problems at home. You can't expect somebody who is worried, who is concerned, whose home is not settled, whose personal life is grappling with issues, to disregard them and fully commit to work. It doesn't happen. It doesn't play out that way. And to expect so is to be unrealistic. And in many cases, people are going through issues. And as a leader, you can't separate the people from their issues. If you must get the most of them, you must be ready to manage the people with their issues. And many times, you showing an interest, you providing some support, some counseling, some comfort, always ends up changing the situation for good. So when you have these kinds of issues, these kinds of, when your people feel this way about you, clearly you are not relevant. You are not relevant. And what happens when you are considered to be irrelevant? What happens? Then your people will not be committed. They will offer minimum commitment. There will be no need, no interest, in striving to ensure that they satisfy you, that they go beyond what your expectations are. They are not challenged. They are not motivated. I mean, why should they kill themselves? Why should they beat themselves over the head in order to meet the expectations of a leader who is considered to be irrelevant? Your team won't watch your back. They won't watch your back. If anything, when you make a mistake, nobody's going to call you, to put you on notice. All right. Your team can, in fact, set you up because, after all, they're just tolerating you. They are not committed to you. They're not excited about your leadership. They don't see what it is, what your use is. If you like, For them, it may well be good riddance to bad rubbish, and that will be a shame for one who claims to be a leader. One of the problems that will happen also is that you lose the unity of your team. You lose the unity and the cohesion of your team, which is important for any leader, to do leadership right, to get the results that matter. In fact, what you may end up also doing is that you create a dysfunctional team where people are now seeking to use other means to gain favor with you, even while tolerating you. And that would be an unfortunate situation. You lack respect and influence, when you are regarded as being irrelevant. And for you, ultimately, it will become, a frustration. You will most likely become a frustrated leader, and you may even burn out. All right, because you would be exerting so much effort, much effort, more than required effort to get results. To get results. Why? Your team is not committed. You are unable, to bring out the best in them. And a lot will fall back on your shoulders. Your sacrifice will be beyond what the normal leader, should take on. And again, like I said, that will be very unfortunate. All right. You will then have to rely excessively on the use of your authority because you lack power. There's a difference between authority and power. It's not the subject of, our session today, but authority is conferred on you by the fact that, you are the head. You are the one who has been assigned to sit in that position. With the seat comes some level of authority, but power has to be earned, and you lack the power because you lack relevance. Real power is in your ability to influence your people without necessarily using authority. One day I will speak in a greater detail about them. For avoidance of doubt, leaders require both, not one or the other. You require the authority and you require power. Both of them are required for you to be effective. But over reliance on authority is an indication of relative ineffectiveness in your leadership. So the totality of it is that your leadership becomes burdensome. Your leadership becomes burdensome. You ought to be celebrated as a leader. Why? Because leaders add value. Leaders had so much value that you shouldn't be able to replace that value. And you know the reason? The reason is because a leader adds so much value to the life of the followers such that nothing else in life compares with the worth of the lives of the people that you lead. There is nothing to compare with life. And therefore, there is nothing to compare with the input that the leader makes or provides to enhance the lives of the people. Okay, so you can't do that and not be regarded as being relevant and also not be regarded, as one to be celebrated. Now, let me give some perspective to this. On Leadership Monday, I spoke, and Leadership Monday holds at this time. On Mondays, I deliver one nugget, for us to apply over the course of the week, to enhance our ability to do leadership right. So I spoke on the subject, the leader's salt. I want to come back to that and draw from that, to deal with this issue of relevance or just being tolerated. And there I spoke, as our custom is, at Emet Leadership Academy, where leaders are nurtured based on truth, and truth for us is found in the Word of God. I spoke from, Mark chapter 9 and verses 49 and 50, and did use the concept of salt, Now, for you and I, salt is relevant. We consider salt to be relevant. Everyone depends on salt. Everyone needs salt. All right. Without salt, our food won't be tasty. Without salt, we can't even preserve our food and some other things. Salt is so important to us that it is relevant. We even accord it respect. We go to look for it. There are things we can't do without, using it, engaging it. And so you want to be relevant, you need to be like salt to your people, like salt is to you. You need to bring so much value to the lives of your people. All right. You need to be such. Your people need to depend on you. All right. For taste and for purity and preservation, if you like. That is, you give value to their lives. You preserve them, okay, for a better life, okay, a better career, because of your involvement in their lives. Their future brightens up. You know, even God was saying that the thoughts I have towards you, they are thoughts of peace, or if you like, thoughts of good. They're not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Now, that is value. That is relevance. That's relevance. Now, relevance has to do with the concrete value that you bring to the lives of your people. Now, there's something interesting that was said in that Mark chapter 9 and verse 50. It made some fundamental, statements. It said, look, everyone will be salted with fire. What that means is that your leadership is going to be proven. You have to prove your relevance. You're going to have to prove your relevance. If you don't prove your relevance, okay, you can't have any influence on the people. All right. Everyone will be salted by fire. It reminds me also when you look at John 15 and verse 16, he said, you didn't call me. I am the one that called you. I called you and ordained you or gave you the mandate to go and bear fruit. Prove your relevance. Prove your relevance. You are not a leader because of title, as many people like to say. It's not about the seat. It's not even about you. It will be about you only to the extent that you can show what value you are bringing to the table. And that is what value. That's not what your makeup is. That's not what you are capable of doing. It is in what way are you able to add value, to add taste, to add preservation, to add a future and a hope to the lives of your people. All right. He said, you go and bear fruit, and your fruit must abide. That is, you prove your relevance and you continue to prove it. As long as you are a leader, you must never take for granted that your relevance has been proven, you have added value before, and that's it. No, leaders continue to add value. Leaders are called to commit themselves to continue to add value. As long as you are leading people, as long as people are looking up to you, you are under obligation to add value. You are under obligation to add value. Your people expect you to continue to add value. Your people expect you to continue to add value. Now, somewhere it also says, you are the salt of the earth. You are the salt of the earth, Matthew 5 and verse 13. So let's be clear what is expected of you. You are expected to be salt to your people. You are expected in that role to be relevant, not tolerated. Nobody tolerates salt. All right. Although, of course, there's portion, there has to be portion control, just as there has to be portion control in your relationship as a leader with your people. But salt is a requirement. You are expected to be salt. And once you talk about salt, we are clear what we're expecting from salt. We're clear what we're expecting from salt. Nobody comes into contact with the effect of salt, all right, and is not happy about it and is left the same. Okay. And, one of the things about salt is that the effect is predictable, it is constant, it does not change. Okay. So you are assured that every time you come in contact with salt, there is taste in your food, there is preservation in your food. All right. And every time you need, such as the times when you may have some stomach disorder or whatever, that if you take water with salt, it helps to provide relief. These are the ways uh, in which a leader is required to affect the lives of the people. All right. So you are expected to be salt. Your identity, your value as salt is going to be proven. He said you are going to be salted with fire. Everyone will be salted with fire. You must prove your relevance. You are called to be relevant, as we have seen. He said, I called you to go and bear fruit. He said, you have the capacity to bear fruit, to be salt on the earth. He said, and that is going to be proven. You have to establish it. And there's a third point, counsel that we're given. He said, have salt in yourself. So ensure that you walk, all right, you develop yourself as a leader to be capable of adding value to your people. That's what he says. Have salt in yourself. Are you capable of adding value to your people? Do you have the skills as a leader to add value? Leadership is not because you are assigned to head a position. It has become commonplace that we become leaders by appointment, not by developing skills. Leadership is about skills, is a set of skills. You need to develop them. There are rules by which leaders operate. There are, perspective from which they operate. There are principles that underpin good, solid leadership. Without access to them, you can't provide leadership, quality leadership. Without an understanding of them, you can't add value to your people. You can't add value to your people. And some of what we're discussing this morning, should give you an insight into what leadership is. It's not just about getting results. Adding value is not just about making profit. It's not just about growing market share. It's not just about, achieving zero efficiency or whatever. No. I insist that first and foremost, what is expected of a leader is to shape the people. Leadership is about people. It's not so much about the business. Leadership is about developing the people so that they can develop the business. So most leaders focus on using the people to develop the business. Leadership is not about using the people. The people are not raw material. The people are not given to you to be used. There's a process. The whole idea of leadership is developmental. It is that the people come in contact with you as a leader, they are developed to have the capacities to lead and replace you, or go elsewhere and replicate that development of others, just as you have done to them. And the more we do that, of course, the more we get the results, and we get the right results for that matter, because there are results that matter to leaders, and there are results that don't and shouldn't matter to leaders. And there is an issue of priority. What comes before the other? The people must always come before the numbers. The people must always come before the numbers. You want to add value, the people must come before the numbers. The people must come before the numbers. He said, the thoughts I have towards you, they are thoughts of to give you a future and a hope, to give you a future and a hope. So it is, the focus is on your people. The organization will benefit from the value that you add to your people. The organization will benefit from the value you add to your people. Now, the point of relevance and tolerance is this: once salt loses its potency, and that can happen in many ways, it loses relevance. He said, look, if salt loses its taste, and that's ridiculous, that ought not to happen, but it happens. He said, of what use will it be? Because when you lose your taste, you lose your purpose. And he says, it will be thrown away and trampled under feet by men. I mean, so imagine you being told that this is salt, and you take it, and what we tend to do first is to taste it to be sure, of the potency of the salt. And so the way we put it to use and the respect we accord it, subsequently, by the way, is a function of the potency in our mouth from that test. Okay, so if we taste it and we're disappointed, we throw it away. And that will be the last time we use it. And if somebody were to hand, the same thing to us mistakenly, our attitude will be what? No, I don't want that. All right? Or we just barely tolerate it. And so for that, we use more in quantity than we would otherwise have used. I don't want to be tolerated as a leader. You shouldn't be tolerated as a leader. If you are tolerated as a leader, you lack respect. You can be celebrated. But more importantly, you can have the requisite effect on the people. Your leadership will be ineffective. Your leadership will be weak. You will soon become a ridicule and a caricature, because then you bear, the title or the label of leader, when in fact the people are only tolerating you because the management put you on the seat. But truth be told, they can't see what value you are adding. They can't see what value you are adding. So, our focus today is this: you are not celebrated because you are not relevant. You are not influential as a leader because you are not relevant. You are not respected because you are not relevant. You need to work on your relevance. You need to boost your relevance. And I dare say, become relevant to the point where you are almost indispensable. I mean, for avoidance of doubt, nobody is indispensable. But I tell you that there are some people that you will hate to do away with. I like to bring myself to that position. Not because I want to feel indispensable, but because I want to be sure that I am relevant. And relevant, not by title, that doesn't confer relevance. Relevance by value that is added not necessarily to the business or towards getting results, but value that is added primarily, first and foremost, to the people that I have been given to superintend over as a leader. And you know, that's very important. That's very, very important. It's important to make such distinctions. It's important to make such distinctions. Let me close by saying that one of the ways that you add value, one of the things that you notice about salt is discipline, is the constancy of salt, and it's the fact that it doesn't get itself unnecessarily involved with the wrong company. Discipline. I won't be able to cover much ground on that today, but that's one of the things that is required. There is the constancy of salt for the most part. How does salt lose its taste? All right. It can't just lose its taste. It's not just wired to lose its taste. It loses its taste when it gets mixed up with other substances, including water. All right. So you want to keep salt. That's why when you keep salt, in a container, you're advised to make sure that it's tightly shut, because even moisture from the environment can weaken by the potency of your salt, not to talk about if you mixed it with other compounds. All right. So and in order for that to happen, discipline is one of the things, and that discipline applies in at least 4 areas. Discipline in what you say. Colossians 4:6 tells us, let your speech or your words be gracious, be pleasant, seasoned as with salt. So you have to be disciplined in your communication. Second, you have to be disciplined in the activities that you get involved with as a leader. You have to be disciplined in the direction that you take as a leader. You have also to be disciplined in terms of the vision that you put before your people. All right. So one of the ways to ensure that you are relevant is to have a presence of mind, is to be focused, is to be disciplined in your approach to providing leadership, doing so with a clear understanding of what is expected of you as a leader, doing so with a commitment to ensure that you live up to that expectation and you be salt to the lives of your people. As we have seen, you and I respect salt. You can't be salt to your people and be disregarded. It's impossible. Rather, you will be relevant without question, and you will be celebrated. More importantly, you will be effective in your role and your calling to lead. And nothing is more fulfilling than living true to the people's expectation of you as a leader. For me, nothing is more fulfilling. Nothing is more fulfilling. I will speak on the subject of fulfillment some other day. So that's it today. Leadership in 30 minutes. I want to thank everyone who has taken the time to join me this morning. I believe and hope that it has been, the session has been, time well spent for you. If it is, join me again next week. Same time, 11 a.m. West African time, for another edition of Leadership in 30 minutes. And I want to encourage you also, same time on Mondays, join. And perhaps you'd have a nugget that you can apply that helps to boost your effectiveness, as and the value that your leadership has to offer your people. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, to my YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you would be notified ahead of time, of this broadcast, and you won't miss any one of them. My name is Olatunji Shobodu. I want to encourage you to check out some of our programs. The Profit from Parables Bootcamp is a very important program. You want an adventure into the parables of Jesus, how you can, you know, unlock the secrets and apply them to your lives to move to the next level and to assure better outcomes in life. If that's an adventure you'd like to undertake, you are free. Join the Prophet from Parables Bootcamp. I would have the pleasure of walking us through the 38 parables of Jesus for purpose of utilizing them and applying them on daily basis, to at least 8 areas of our lives, to our career, to our businesses, to our investments, to our finances, to our character, to our leadership, to our relationships, to our spiritual development, and perhaps also to our health. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining. See you again and enjoy the rest of your week, by the way. And please commit yourself to doing leadership right. Commit yourself to doing leadership right. God bless you. Bye-bye.